Hello, my name is Michael, and thanks to Hadi for a great presentation and introduction. That's very good to be back to Seoul. I've been here last year, and yeah, that was quite an amazing experience. So today I would like to talk about continuous workflows, and I'm going to show you JetBrains teamware tools in addition to IDs, and how it all plays together in order to improve developers' workflow with JetBrains tools. So I already seen a lot of hands of those using IntelliJ. So raise your hand if you know our teamware tools, such as TeamCity, AppSource, UTrack, or Hub. Raise your hand if you know it. OK, 5, 6, 10 hands. Now raise your hand if you actually use it. 4, good. So I hope that there will be more and more companies and their teams here moving to our teamware tools quite soon. So JetBrains is known for doing IDs, integrated development environments, starting with IntelliJ and then doing ReSharper, plugin for Visual Studio, and many other products in their personal developer productivity. But then there are quite some tools which also help boost their productivity of their entire team or an entire company. Because we don't really develop all of the things we do as developers on the local machine. We need to collaborate in the team, and there might be a lot of team members. And you need to make sure that everything works together, all their code you check in from different machines, from different environments that is being built and then is delivered to the customer. And before that, of course, that all their issues and all the bugs are tracked and they're worked on by developers, quality assurance engineers, and are followed up on. So JetBrains has a suite of 3 major teamware tools. The first one is UTrack, and UTrack is an issue tracker. So it is a bug tracker which lets you log all your issues and have reports and agile boards and create your teams there. TeamCity as a continuous integration and continuous delivery solution. And then AppSource as a code review and code browsing tool. And in order to bring all of the tools together, we have Hub. And Hub is a tool which connects these 3 and also some other services, non-JetBrains services. So let me just quickly show some of their major features. And we actually, we'll move on to the demo very soon. So Hub provides you a single sign-on and users and agents permissions and their project wizard and their dashboards for your end users. Then TeamCity is a continuous integration and continuous delivery, takes care of all their solutions being built on the server side. And then UTrack, of course, makes sure of the fact that all the issues are logged and they're being tracked and so on. And then AppSource. With AppSource as a team, you can do code reviews, and you can browse the code and get all the code insights. So let's look at those. So yeah, I'm not here to show you a bunch of slides. So I'm here to show you some of those tools and show you how they're going to improve productivity of your team together, being integrated with your IDs, which you already use. So Hub, as I mentioned, is their a kind of core of their system, which lets you connect all the teamware tools together. And it's very important for especially bigger companies because it provides you an opportunity to create a single sign-on so that you connect it to your infrastructure, and then you have a single sign-on into all of their JetBrains teamware tools. So here we operate as the concept of projects. So here I have a global Kotlin Conf application and a couple of others. And let's work on some new project. And we create different services. So here I have three different services connected. It's code review, issue tracker, or repository, Git repository. And Hub can integrate with all these services. Those are provided by JetBrains to create projects there and, for example, set up a Scrum board. And then you define a team. You add different groups. So let's add all the registered users to the team. And from here, we can go to and switch to UTrack, for example, or TeamCity, or upsource. And it lets you manage all of these settings for all the projects you have, or specific settings for one project. Give permissions to different users, or create groups, create teams, departments, and so on and so on. But let's move to TeamCity. So TeamCity is a continuous integration and continuous delivery solution by JetBrains. And you really have to excuse me if something goes wrong here, because that's an entire suite of JetBrains tools running on this Mac here, right on the stage. So it takes about 9 gigs of RAM, so it might be heavy, but I hope it all goes very well, and yeah, no restarts are needed. So probably some of you already seen this continuous integration, continuous delivery solutions, and the general principle here is that you write a code in the IDE, but then you need to build it, you need to test it, you need to make sure that it all works, and it works in their isolated environment, and you collaborate with your colleagues to build the whole solution. And then apart from that, apart from building and testing, you also need to deliver it to your end customer. So continuous integration, continuous delivery solutions make sure that everything is built continuously, and all the time all the tests are running, and you get all the insights about what's happening with your project. And then you generate some artifacts, let it be executables or some libraries, and then they're, for example, promoted to the CDN, where customers can download them, and you distribute them to customers from there on. So in TeamCity, we have projects and build configurations. And the most basic operation, what you want to do in a new continuous integration solution is, of course, create a project. So we could have gone a manual way, define a name, then create some build configurations, and then provide a repository URL, or skip this step, then attach VCS root, configure some triggers, and parameters and so on. But instead of that, so you probably use Gradle or Maven already in your projects because BLD, and it would be much easier to just have TeamCity create a project in this way. You provide a repository name, and it already configured my version control settings. It set up some of the basic triggers, which would mean that their build will be running every time some code is being checked in to their repository. And it also managed to auto-detect some of the build steps I have in my Gradle configuration. So let's define this as Gradle. And it took us somewhat 20 seconds from the start till finish, with just getting the information from the VCS with TeamCity help to start building the project. So here we go. The project is being built. It's just being checked out from the repository, and in a couple of minutes, it will be built in this new environment. So then let's look at into some of the configurations we have for builds. And we can connect multiple VCS routes and define a lot of build steps, as many as one, in fact. And here you have just one Gradle, but of course you can provide your own build steps via command line, or you can make some deployment steps like FTP or SSH upload, or executables, or NuGet, or, for example, duplicate finder for Java or .NET. So a few of the things we borrowed from IntelliJ and ReSharper. So we brought inspections from IntelliJ and ReSharper to TeamCity side as well, which means that, as Hari already mentioned, as one of their build steps, we can make sure that their build fails if inspections of IntelliJ, some specific inspection profile of IntelliJ fails, and you would not be able to get a successful build in case some of the inspection, there are too many typos, or some really dangerous code being checked in there. Then you have different triggers. So at this moment, I have just the VCS trigger. So as soon as the code is being checked into the VCS, the build is going to be running here. And we can add a new trigger as well, for example, the schedule. And let's say we want to run build daily at 10 p.m. and trigger it only if there are any pending changes. And of course, there might be a lot of failure conditions. So you want to know if something goes wrong, right? So build fails, you know you need to do something with it, and you can define different metrics or specify text in the build log. So for example, if there let's say if test duration is increasing 50%, that means that something really goes wrong, and you need to investigate that. So we can say that it increases from the latest successful build more than 1% or 50%, then the build will be failing. So that's our project configuration. And you see, I have quite a lot of things here, so let's run a few builds. Because I want to show you the concept of build queues and agents. So the thing you see right now is called TeamCity Console or TeamCity Management Console. And that's the place where you basically control all the TeamCity installation and where you configure all the builds and manage agents. And agents can be on different machines, or they can be even on the same machine or some virtual machines. And agents, they're actually those machines doing all the work. So it's a small installation of TeamCity executable there, and you install it to the machine, and then it reports back to TeamCity, and you start building different builds on those agents. So you see that here I have 3 agents, and we have them added in their single pool. So you can, for example, divide the pools between departments. So IntelliJ departments get a pool of 50 agents, and then ReSharper department gets 40 agents, and they are of different configuration. And you can either pre-install all their software you need on the agent, or you can also create virtual machines and make a task to pre-install specific software on the agent before it's being run there. And in order to understand what's happening with the agents, because you definitely want to utilize all the agents you have, because you pay for the electricity, you pay for the maintenance of those agents, so you definitely want to make sure that they work. So you have extensive statistics on what happens with your agents and how big is the usage. So if this usage, 0.7% would be on the real installation, we would probably need to consider moving them to different department or give them to someone who actually use those agents, because, yeah, they're just standing idle most of the time, and they need to work. So if there are not enough agents to have, or all the builds you have built at this moment, they will be organized in the build queue, and that's what we see right now. So if you run even more builds right now, they will be adding in the build queue right here, and they will be waiting for the available agents. So TeamCity has more than, I assume, I think it's 400 or 500 agents. So for all the JetBrains products to be built there, and we have them organized in different pools, and their build queue might be huge, but it's all managed, and we have different requirements for the agents, and it all works and being distributed in a really big installation of TeamCity. So how the results of the build look? So here we have tests running with every build, and we can see that in this case tests passed, and we didn't have any particular changes here, but they would be displayed. And we have a list of all the tests, and we have for duration, and we can get the chart of the test duration on different agents and get the average as well to understand whether our tests are being run faster or slower. Then you, of course, get the build log on all the history and parameters, dependencies, and artifacts. Well, in this case, I just have hidden artifacts for this build. So of course, you get all the history and all the artifacts can be stored either on the same machine, or you can define some storage, whether they would be stored and you would be able to access them later from there. And then let me show you how it looks from the IDE side, because as I said, we have it all integrated, so all their JetBrains tools play together, and they improve your general developer's workflow. So that's the project I have here, and let me show what we have for TeamCity. So I can connect right to the TeamCity installation from my IDE. And I see that there are a couple of projects, and I can see what's happening and run configurations right from here. That's Wasabi, remote debug run. I can start it running right from here. I can see my changes because I was doing some changes, and then I was running builds on the server, and all the feedback here gets back to the IDE, and I can see all the build log to investigate whether it was successful or not, what were the issues there, and so on. And I can look into my investigations. So the concept of investigation is that something is going wrong, like here. The build failed because of some problems. I don't know about them. So let's say we need to investigate them. I don't give up. I need to investigate them first. Let's save. You see, instantly I got the investigations, the one investigation which is pending. And that's the same thing I got in my IDE. So it's just got pushed to the IDE. So it's all connected, all updated, and IDE tells me, oh, you have some new investigation to take care of. That's remote debug run. OK, something is happening here. I can see, yeah, if there would be changes, I would be able to see all the diff which led to these builds running, and to see all the changes from the previous build, and I would be able to see what's happening and investigate the problem. In this case, I don't really know, so let's see what can I do. I can mark as fixed, but I could not, so I give up. Harry will fix it later. That's it. We are done with investigation, and that's all the things you get in TeamCity being channeled back to the IDE. So the integration really helps you get all the context in the tool you work most as a developer, so the IDE. And then one amazing thing which you can get also with their IntelliJ and their TeamCity integration is this thing. You can do remote run on TeamCity. So it's connected to it, so we can remote run not only the build itself, but we can also remote run some of the outgoing changes. So let's just introduce some changes. So yes, we have outgoing changes. And in this case, we do not need to commit them before we run them on TeamCity. So we want to check that our changes, which we will introduce, will be OK when the build is being built on the continuous integration. So we start it right from the IDE, and the IDE will deliver changes right to TeamCity. And you see it's updating sources, and their build is running. It's my personal build, so IntelliJ communicated to TeamCity, and it's now all being built. So then, when we will be finished, the feedback will be delivered back to our IDE, whether it's finished successfully or failed, we will see. On the other hand, I've shown you that there are a lot of configurations here on their interface side. But in addition to the interface, especially if you have a big installation, or if you have a few hundreds people working on their single continuous integration, continuous delivery solution, you definitely want to have something more solid than their interface fixes by 100, 200, 500 people. And we've got you covered here as well. So what I want to show you is how you can do configuration with their Kotlin. So let's assume we have this project, and we have settings of TeamCity. It's either project settings or global TeamCity settings in Kotlin. And there are basically two different formats you can utilize to provide settings for TeamCity. It's either XML or Kotlin. Well, probably providing a lot of configurations in XML or YAML would be quite a miserable experience, I have to say. So we would definitely use Kotlin. So it downloads me an archive, and in this archive, I have all their settings in their Kotlin format, in the Kotlin language. So let me show it just in a second. After I show, but before I need to show you how to enable synchronization of the settings, because when you have settings as a code, you can check them in together with your code or in a separate repository, and then TeamCity can pick up the settings as they are checked into the version control system. It can pick up the settings, apply to the TeamCity, and make sure that all the settings are being valid, and then apply them to TeamCity and or make them your settings you are using at their production machine. So settings format, define VCS root, let's say it's here, and then we apply, and their settings will be synchronized. But what kind of settings do we have there? So that's a project I have opened. That's sorry, exactly the same one we have downloaded just a minute ago. And that's Kotlin. And if you don't know Kotlin, make sure to stay after the coffee, because Hadi and our friends will be talking about Kotlin a lot. And they will show you how to work with it. And one of the things why Kotlin is very good and convenient for the industry is that you can create amazing DSL with it. So here you see DSL JetBrains created on Kotlin to cover TeamCity configuration. And you have this global configuration of the root project, and then we have folders for all the projects we have configured in TeamCity, and it's all Kotlin. And you get completion here. You get completion. Yes, you get completion. And you can navigate to their definitions. So as it's Kotlin, so you see all the references. And if you would like to explore what do you have in the DSL, you can just open the external library, which is configs DSL Kotlin version of teamcity.jar, and look through the things we have here. So for example, how do we define dependency? We define dependency with artifacts, external ID, snapshot, and then also artifacts and snapshots. So we can see how it's used. And that's very human readable. So the issue with providing settings in XML or YAML or some other formats is that it's not really that easy to understand what's happening there. And here we have dependencies. We define dependency on demo, build, and of course you get all the completion, all the completion here as well. Build types, demo 3. We just define their snapshot dependency, and then failure action, fail to start. So it's all really easy to explore this DSL and work with it. But what's even better is that first, it's a Maven project, so validate. We'll get here running validate here. We'll get here validation of their TeamCity configuration, and you can compile it from here and deploy as well. But in addition to that, it's real Kotlin. It's a real programming language, which means that you can work with it in the same way as you would work with Kotlin. So you can just, along with the TeamCity configuration, you can create your Kotlin files, classes, and you can generate this configuration dynamically, which means that if you need to connect to some APIs to fetch some configuration parameters, if you need to connect to Git to fetch some of their branches or version control source roots or anything else, you can do it from Kotlin. And even better, you can do tests. So you do tests for your configuration of their continuous integration, continuous delivery solution. With that, there is one additional thing I wanted to show you on the TeamCity side. And there are a couple of builds hanging here. That's fine. Over time, yeah, probably something is taking too much time. So another thing I wanted to show you is called build chains. And their build chains are also called build pipelines in some of their other documentations or in other products, similar products. So build pipeline or build chain is a sequence of build steps or builds which is supposed to be built, well, sorry, so for all so many build words here. So yeah, they're supposed to be built in chain or in pipeline. So the pipeline goes from left to right. And we see that on the left of the pipeline, we have 4 different builds which have to run and which have to be successful before you go along the pipeline to the right. So you go here and here and here, and you can reuse artifacts from the previous build steps. So for example, in the very big solution, here on the left, you would have some infrastructure things being built, Docker, or you would have some libraries being built before you go on with your solution being built on top of those libraries or being built in their infrastructure just created. And in this case, you can reuse their artifacts, that's first, but moreover, you can make sure that these parts of the build chain, these parts of the build pipeline, running on the same agent. And that's very important when you have, for example, NPM packages, because NPM packages check out and dependencies. It takes ages, so you definitely want to do it faster, and you want to do it on the same machine if you are builds on the build pipeline depend on the same on the same NPM packages, for example. So then another thing I wanted to show you, and for that I need to show you the latest version of TeamCity. So TeamCity can work with different kinds of agents, let it be a physical machine or virtual machine. But another thing JetBrains has been working really hard the last year is a Docker integration and how it works with Docker and Kubernetes and tools from HashiCorp. So you know Docker, right? Who knows Docker? Raise your hand. Yes, great. So you know Docker. That's amazing. So Docker is now more or less the industry standard in creating the containers, and TeamCity team has put a lot of effort into providing a top-notch support for those. So here we see that we have an application. An application has a backend where we have build app and Docker image, front end with Docker image, and then test with Selenium tests, and their actual deployment. So there are a few things you can do here. As a build steps here, we have basically the Docker image being built. So you do Docker build and Docker push to their Docker repository, so that TeamCity creates their infrastructure for you. So it creates the Docker image, and it makes sure that it all works and that there are no issues with Docker itself. But then, even more, it can use this Docker to, let me show you. Yeah, it can use this Docker to run the tests. So you just, yeah, so you basically create the Docker at the first step, and then you define the dependency, and then all the Docker and all the application are being built, and then you run the tests, and you make sure that the tests are running inside this Docker you just built, or you, for example, can build your application inside this Docker as well. So that's a kind of creating your own infrastructure for the build itself, and TeamCity can manage it all for you, and yeah, you can just do it easily. So here in their tests, you do the Docker compose, and then you run npm install, and it does it all on Docker. And then in addition to that, of course, you can use Docker in order to create agents, and you can use it in addition to other virtualization providers. So for example, TeamCity has a native support for Amazon and for VMware, or VMware vSphere, I think it's called, and a lot of plugins from their third parties which provide support for other cloud providers. So if you don't have agents here, like I have only one agent, so yeah, TeamCity can just go and spin new Docker images or new virtual machines for me together with their cloud providers you use. And here we have all the dependents. So yeah, I showed you the build chains. Here we have the build chain as well. So the Docker image should be created before you run the tests. And you first build the app, you create a Docker image with it, and then you run the tests, and then you do the deployment. So here, we have this concept of continuous integration. When continuous integration solutions runs it all, builds it all the tests or integration tests or unit tests, so on, running on the server, making sure it all works. Then you have continuous delivery, which basically would also mean that it can deploy when everything is good, or it can not deploy when everything is bad. And with this Docker support, we also add one more level here. It's continuous infrastructure, because with your continuous integration and continuous delivery, you also do continuous infrastructure builds. And to define those dependencies, for example, you can do it in the dependencies. So you do snapshot dependencies or artifact dependencies. So artifact dependencies basically allows using artifacts produced by another build. So you just do these chains. Probably enough of TeamCity. Let me show you a couple of other things we have on JetBrains side. So before you actually start working on some of the problem, you need to have it logged somewhere. And I shown you Hub, which integrates all our tools, and it also gives you a dashboard, which provides information from different tools. Dashboard, reviews, and you can create different dashboards here and share it with your team as well. And here I want to go to uTrack. So uTrack is an issue tracker, and it was created as a developer-oriented issue tracker. So there is a great thing which is called command dialog, which you can use Control Option J to invoke. And here I just like we got used to, like we are developers, so we used to commands, we used to command line and so on. So we start, okay, probably assignee me. It auto-completes what I type here, and then, for example, let's mark it as fixed. Apply. One issue has been updated, and you can do all their actions in the IDE without your mouse, as well as you can do in JetBrains IDEs. So you can expand, and you can start mentioning people. So Gary, could you please fix it as soon as possible? Let's send it. So we just have all the things on in the issue tracker, and there are different fields defined, so you can customize it quite a lot for your development workflows, because you definitely need their priority, types, states, assignees, subsystems, but then you also can define some fixed versions, affected versions of your software, and then you can also have TeamCity report back to their issue tracker and set as soon as their issue has been fixed, because it would understand if you commit your code to the repository and you mention the uTrack issue, it will understand that it's the one, and TeamCity will push updates back to your uTrack saying, okay, this has been fixed. And of course, you get the history and all their similar issues to understand, just what's happening here. And one of the things which are really convenient for the agile teams, and those using Kanban or Scrum, is this board. So here I have agile board where you get all their insights into your current sprint. So here I have only one sprint defined, but you can definitely create a new sprint, which would be from 10th till 31st. Test it, add unresolved issues, and we just create a new sprint, and we can move it around, and we can check what's happening in this issue, and we can get the backlog here. So the backlog is defined by their saved search. From the backlog, we can just, what's happening? Yeah, we can check here, and we can, we can move it around and in the backlog, And oh yeah, it's already in there in the sprint, those, and this one we can add to the sprint right here because it was not. You can see the burn down, and that's very convenient for sprint to understand what's happening here. But in addition to those, we have quite extensive reports, and it's really easy to create those. So that's more or less the same burn down, but in addition to that, issues per assignee for global and Wasabi projects. And that's how we created a report just in a few seconds. And of course, a lot of things you have in your truck and the workflows you can customize. And from the latest version, also your truck supports workflows. And workflows is kind of scripts or these extended configurations which you can write and in JavaScript. So it used to be different DSL we used based on MPS, but now we support JavaScript, so you can provide all the workflows in JavaScript. So we use it quite a lot in JetBrains for different non-development tasks as well. So for example, some marketing webinars. We have workflow which creates a lot of issues as soon as a new meta issue is created in marketing project with the type webinar. So you can program all that, and you can create releases. So for releases at JetBrains, we get a lot of issues created automatically as well. And from here, you can easily navigate to other things as well. So it's all connected. And in the IDE for UTruck, of course, you get, it's a different project. In the IDE for UTruck, of course, you get all the insights on the issues here, and read what's happening here as well. And you can use the same search as you used there, assignee, assigned to me, and it will get you the issue. I use also EAP. As well as Hari, I also use EAP. It happens. And one of the most amazing features here is that we basically can set as active task, or probably I should choose a different one because this one I already have. Fix the problem now, please. Set as active task. We can update issue here and clear current context, so everything will be clear. And then create a new change list in the VCS. We can shelve current changes, and let's create a branch for that based on master. No, I cannot do that, of course. So you see, we got. Yeah, we don't need this empty change list. We created the branch here. We created their problem task here, and we are working on this issue, and we get all the comments and all the information about the issue. And then when we commit code, when we fix the issue, and basically their UTruck will recognize that, and we can change the state. And we will report back to UTruck that either, yeah, there's a shortcut, command shift, yes, command shift Y, and then we can set it as fixed right from the IDE, and all the changes have been applied here. So global 1 is now fixed. That's UTruck. And one more tool which I promised you to show is AppSource. So AppSource is a code review and code browser tool. So as a code browser, you can basically go to your solution and you start browsing code. It's as easy as it gets. Let me make it a bit bigger. So yeah, Wasabi core, source, main. Let's find something in Kotlin, of course. There are inspections here. So as I said before, we brought a lot of intelligence to TeamCity from IntelliJ for inspections and finding duplicates, for example. But we've done even more for AppSource. So AppSource has an IntelliJ backend running in the background. So IntelliJ running inspections against the code we are viewing here in the AppSource, and it gets us all their insights. And you can find usages, for example, here. Well, there are no usages of this one. OK. I can find something more meaningful, but you get the idea. All right, so you get all the information about the code. You get folding of the imports. You get all the inspections. You can see here who's been responsible, who should I blame for this one. You have the history, and of course you can see the raw file as well. But the major application of AppSource is not their code browsing, but the code reviews, and that's where we have a lot of things. So code reviews let you review the changes and make sure that everything is OK, because we all collaborate on what we do. And here we have one of their commits. Yeah, this one, typo has been fixed. So we see all their information about the revision, what code has been changed. If there would be multiple files, you would be able to see the diff, or you would be able to see them all. And here we can see the diff as well to see what has been actually changed. We can compare, download patch, and apply it to in our IDE. We can show nearby commits to understand who else was trying to fix something around the same time. And then we can review changes. So we can either attach the review or we can create a new review. Let's create a new review. So it's a master branch. We create a review, and we need to add some reviewers. Let's add Phil, Trisha, and make sure that Gary looks into this as well. So you have this review, and these 3 people, reviewers, they're supposed to review what's happening here. And they can go to AppSource, they can do the review, and killer feature. You can use emojis. Oh, it's too big. It's too big now. Here, you can use emojis here in AppSource. You can set their due dates, and then they will get notifications if they have not reviewed it yet. You can see their discussions, and you can create an issue right from here in uTrack. Showstopper, bug, get back to uTrack, and oh, it's a different project. It's Wasabi. Yes, here we go. The showstopper just has been created in uTrack. So it all connects, it all delivers you information, it all exchanges it really easily. But then, in addition to that, you can also get back to the IDE, because IDE is our tool we use as developers. And here we see the same reviews we have been seeing in the interface, but in the context of the IDE. And it gives us a lot of insights, because you have all the code here. You have all the understanding of what happens. And from here, you can show it in VCS log, and you can check the diffs. You can see what was happening, and then you can also see the news feed of it's updating. So you would see all what was happening in the AppSource, and whether others review that or not. And then you can look into their actual review, and then you can say that, OK, we accept the changes. And it will be, of course, delivered back here in AppSource. Yes, so admin, that's me for now, has accepted the changes. And there are a lot of code insights here, and you can make reviews for branches or for GitHub. Specifically, you can do our reviews for pull requests, which is super happy to use it, because on the pull requests, it really makes a lot of sense to do reviews there. And then you get very extensive analytics with commit activity to understand who is the most active ones, what is the history. Here is nice animation on their file history chat. It's like it goes, it goes, it goes. And we see that. File history, code reviews, reviewers graph to understand who reviews whom. Because if you have a big company, you really need to understand like what's the relation out there, and how their reviews are structured and what do they do there, and so on. So that's what I wanted to show you around AppSource, and that's our demo. So as I shown you, we have this personal productivity tool, IntelliJ in our case. We have UTrack to log the issues. We have TeamCity to build it. We have AppSource to review it, and then all delivered to the customer by TeamCity. And with that, I'm the only one who holds you here